I accidentally slept with the top student from University A. A month later, I went to find the father with the baby in my belly. The cold and taciturn top student said decisively, "I'll take responsibility later." I played Three Kingdoms Kill with my senior at a cafe. The man's face was icy as he knocked on the window from outside. "How many fathers do you want to find for this child?" Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. "You're pregnant." The doctor set down the test results. "It's already been 5 weeks. I sprang to my feet. "Could there be a mistake?" The doctor frowned. "Is it possible the lab report was wrong? Or maybe the urine samples got mixed up during testing? Do you think this is some romance novel? How could they make such a simple mistake?" The doctor laughed in exasperation. "If you're really worried, go get another blood test." Later, when the blood test results came out, I held the lab report and fell into deep thought. The doctor asked calmly, 20 years old, still in college, right? I weakly in response. "What year are you in?" "Sophomore year." "Is the child's father too?" "He's a junior." The doctor seemed quite accustomed to such situations, filling out forms while saying, "Pregnancy is a serious matter, whether you want this child or not. Your boyfriend needs to know he bears responsibility too." I nodded silently, swallowing back the words "he's not my boyfriend" that had risen in my throat. By the time I left the hospital, it was nearly noon. The air was thick with floating poplar catkins, making my nose itch. I recalled the night the accident happened, scratching my head in regret. Last month, a senior from our department celebrated her birthday and invited us to sing at a club. I accidentally drank someone else's high-proof cocktail. Dazedly, I went to the restroom. I stumbled into the neighboring compartment in a daze. In the end, I ended up clinging to a guy in a confused state. The noise around me was overwhelming, with people cheering and making a racket. Later, I was taken away by someone. I woke up to find the sky already bright, with the man beside me sleeping soundly, his back turned to me. I couldn't remember clearly what had happened the night before, but the marks on my body told the undeniable truth. In a panic, I dressed quickly, grabbed a slipper, and was ready to teach that guy a lesson. But when I turned him over, I was met with an extraordinarily handsome face. I know who he is, Gerald, a top physics student at the university, the pride of everyone's eyes. I was momentarily dazed, unable to tell who had taken advantage of whom. At that very moment, Gerald woke up. His gaze shifted from confusion to calmness, his pitch-black eyes fixed motionlessly on the slipper in my hand. His voice was deep and slightly hoarse. "I'll take responsibility. Can we skip the silencing part? I only have one demand. Pretend this never happened, and act like strangers when we meet again." Gerald lowered his eyes and remained silent for a long moment before nodding slightly. University A and University B are next to each other, separated only by a street. Nearby, there are internet cafes, supermarkets, milk tea shops, and various snack stalls. The chances of people from the two schools running into each other outside are still quite high. Gerald truly kept his promise, pretending not to know me during those chance encounters. A month passed, and life seemed to return to its previous track. There shouldn't have been any further intersection between us, until my period was late this month. I took a deep breath and hailed a taxi by the roadside. "Driver, to University A." That night I made a mistake, but Gerald was also to blame. Whether this child stays or goes, he must be told. The timing was perfect. When I found Gerald, they had just finished class. A swarm of students, like wild boars starved for half a century, surged toward the cafeteria. In moments, the vast lecture hall was left with only a scattered few. "Gerald, stop sleeping. If we go any later, all the food will be gone." Gerald was shaken awake by a male classmate, lifting his head with bleary eyes. Summoning my courage, I waved at him. "Gerald." He froze when he saw me, seemingly caught off guard. The boy next to me spoke first. "Classmate, I suggest you pick another day to confess. This guy has a bad temper when he just wakes up." Before the words even finished, Gerald had already slung his backpack over his shoulder and strode toward me, backlit. His face was somewhat blurred, yet the handsome contours were still discernible. His soft hair traced with golden edges swayed slightly with each step. As he approached, I caught a faint whiff of lemon-scented soap, a fresh, clean fragrance with a hint of sweetness. So tall, so fragrant. So handsome. What brings you here? He asked softly. I snapped back to reality, burning with shame. Stammering, I said, I need to talk to you. Have you eaten yet? Not yet. The guys around were dumbfounded. Holy shit, no way. Am I seeing this right? Gerald ignored them and asked softly, want to grab a meal together? I awkwardly pursed my lips. There's something more important than eating. Let's find a quiet place to talk. University A's lab building is quite remote. Located at a corner of the campus, Gerald led me to a shaded area behind the building. Now you can tell me, what happened? He always gives off an indifferent vibe. There's always this infuriating sense of detachment about him, as if nothing concerns him. I adjusted my breathing and feigned composure as I said, you weren't wearing that last time, were you? He paused, his tone slightly unnatural. I was. I asked incredulously. You carry that with you? He quickly explained. It's from the hotel. I took a deep breath, gritted my teeth, and said, then how could I be pregnant? He stared at me blankly for 2 seconds, then suddenly grabbed my shoulders. What did you say? I broke free from him and took out the 2 test reports from my bag. He took them and examined them carefully, his expression gradually darkening. I tried to read shock, irritation, or regret, any sign of losing composure, on his face, but there was none. Instead, he remained calm. As if he had quickly processed the information. Explain this. How could she get pregnant if you used protection? We did use it, but, his voice weakened slightly. The last time seems like, the last time. How many times in total? 3 times. Damn. Is this guy a beast or what? What are your thoughts? Gerald pressed his lips together, folded the test results neatly, and tucked them into his pocket. Do you want to keep this baby, or terminate it? I tightened my grip on the backpack strap and shook my head slightly. He lowered his gaze and fell into silence. The afternoon sun was intense, making people feel a bit restless from the heat. I still have classes in the afternoon and don't want to waste any more time here. Then it's settled. I'll schedule the surgery as soon as possible. I'll need you to come with me. It's going to be painful, and I don't want to face it alone. Can we keep it? Gerald asked softly. Keep it. I'll raise it. Okay. I was stunned. Are you serious? I'm serious. His dark, bright eyes stared straight at me. If you keep this child, I will take full responsibility for you and the child. If you decide not to, I will also stand by you until you no longer need me. Hearing his words, my heavy heart felt a slight relief. The doctor said my uterine lining is thin, and it might be very difficult to conceive again after an abortion. So deep down, I really want to keep this child. Since he's willing to take responsibility, that's for the best. Then you should be mentally prepared. Raising a child is very expensive. I hesitated and said, but I also share responsibility in this matter. Let's go Dutch. I'll send you monthly bills for the child's expenses. He interrupted me. When I say responsibility, I don't just mean paying child support. I mean taking on your future lives as your husband and the child's father. Don't twist my words. I was stunned. Are you saying you want to marry me? Children raised in loving 2-parent families tend to have a stronger sense of security, more optimistic personalities, and better emotional regulation. That's in loving circumstances. Do we look like we have love between us? It will come. We will be happy. That cold and indifferent face suddenly became incredibly gentle. He gently took my hand. How about starting as boyfriend and girlfriend first? I stared at him blankly, unsure where his confidence came from. But under the influence of that smile, I impulsively agreed. Truly, beauty leads one astray. After deciding to keep the baby, I often went to the library to borrow books about pregnancy. I thought only mothers could be so attentive, but it turns out fathers aren't far behind either. A genius is truly extraordinary. Just as I was reading about what to pay attention to during early pregnancy, Gerald was already flipping through a parenting manual. The book says that starting from the 6th week of pregnancy, human chorionic gonadotropin and estrogen levels rise rapidly, stimulating the gastrointestinal tract and central nervous system. In severe cases, you may vomit whatever you eat. I'm already 9 weeks along. But I still haven't had any symptoms at all. I pointed at the string of words in the book, squinting with a smile. Doesn't it mean I'm in great shape? Gerald didn't even look up, saying indifferently, morning sickness is related to hormone levels, metabolic capacity, and genetics. It just means you're relatively lucky. I pursed my lips and turned to the next page. Outside, the sky was gloomy, and lightning split the clouds. Drizzling Odelia soon turned into a downpour. I closed the book and set it aside, resting my chin in my hands as I gazed out the window. My attention was quickly drawn to the reflection of a man in the glass. Gerald sat upright, his jawline sharply defined from this angle. There was an indescribable elegance in the way he turned the pages with his fingers. The girl at the next table kept stealing glances at him. She barely turned a page of the book in her hands. I rolled my eyes. Hey, genius. Gerald lifted his eyelids. You can call me by my name, Gerald the Great. Boyfriend, he froze, his ears turning slightly red. His expression remained cold. What's wrong? I glanced at the girl and pursed my lips. I'm thirsty. I want some water. The water is right beside you. You unscrew it for me. Gerald gave me a meaningful look. Slender fingers twisted the cap open with a turn, handed it to me. Your Highness, please drink. I flashed a triumphant smile. The rain soon stopped. Sunlight poured down, dry and warm, when leaving the library. I habitually put on my hat and mask. Gerald frowned. It's almost June. Aren't you hot? I shook my head. Might run into classmates on the way. Want to have lunch together tomorrow noon. Already made plans with someone tomorrow. His eyes dimmed slightly as he turned his head away, no longer speaking. He pulled out a TEM8 vocabulary handbook from his bag and started reading. I stared in disbelief, my eyes widening. Is this guy trying to outwork everyone to death? A university campus opened a coffee shop. The ambience is elegant, the drinks are delicious, and the air conditioning is strong. The only drawback is that payments can only be made with a university student cards. Roommate Sarah has a close senior at a university. The senior sister warmly invited us for afternoon tea. She also called 2 senior brothers to join us in playing Three Kingdoms Kill. Sarah had a strong liking for one of the senior brothers. She was so nervous that she almost stuck the straw up her nose while drinking. I couldn't stand it anymore and reminded her to quickly ask for his phone, so she wouldn't regret it later. Don't be fooled by her usually bold demeanor. When it comes to the real deal, she's incredibly timid. Under the pretense of going to order, she asked me to help get the senior's phone. I was slightly exasperated, but I still decided to help her. Ahem, senior, can I have your phone? I smiled and extended my phone towards him. No problem, the senior readily agreed, but he had just taken out his phone to scan the code. The window beside him was tapped. The whole table looked over simultaneously. Gerald, the senior student exclaimed in surprise. My scalp tingled as I guiltily withdrew my hand. The senior student swept empty air, looking puzzled. What's wrong, Junior? At this moment Gerald had already pushed open the cafe door and entered. The guy was wearing the simplest white t-shirt and jeans, but it looked so good as if it wasn't on the same layer as others. I quietly pushed the cold drink aside. Gerald, why are you here? A girl at the corner table stood up excitedly. Gerald walked past us coldly and headed straight for the table where the girls were sitting. I bit my lip, suddenly feeling a pang of discomfort in my heart. Damn, Nuwa must have put extra effort into sculpting him. Sarah couldn't help exclaiming. That physique, those proportions, that face, and the fact that he's smart too. I kept my composure and deliberately avoided looking in that direction. Is that so? Pretty average, I'd say. Everyone at the table turned to look at me. The senior chuckled. Lots of people chase after him, and quite a few are as stubborn as you. I lowered my head and bit the straw, feeling my heart burn with embarrassment. There is no restroom in the cafe. I went to the toilet in the teaching building halfway. As soon as I came out, I ran into Gerald in the hallway. He had a bag slung over one shoulder, staring at me with a heavy gaze. Is Sangwosha fun to play? I turned my head away without looking at him. It's so hot. What's wrong with me having something cold to drink? Who asked about that? I'm asking why you added him on phone. Gerald frowned. How many fathers do you want to find for the child? so that's what he was angry about, jealous. I burst out laughing. Don't get the wrong idea. I was asking for Sarah. He stared at me for a moment and asked, do you want it? No? Not getting it for Sarah. You're glaring at me like that. Why the hell would I still want it? The corner of his lips curved imperceptibly. Next time you want to go to that cafe, just ask me for my student card. I said, scuffing the soles of my shoes on the ground. Who was that girl talking to you just now? Do you mind? Never mind then, just a senior. We're not close, he calmly explained. I just went over to say a few words to a senior I know. I pretended not to care and nodded. The little unhappiness in my heart vanished like smoke. At this moment Sarah sent a message. Did you fall into a pit? I should go back now. I looked around guiltily like a thief. Come out 5 minutes later. Gerald's face darkened again. Is it really necessary? Every time we meet, you run so far away, covering your face more tightly than a celebrity, never eating with me at school, and pretending not to know me if we bump into each other. He seemed to be enumerating my faults. Odelia, just how badly do you want to cut ties with me? The atmosphere grew strangely tense. I licked my lips. I just think it's too early to go public now. What if? I couldn't bring myself to finish the sentence. The child is still too young now, and there are many uncertainties. If something were to happen to the child, would we still stay together? This relationship was never based on naturally occurring mutual feelings, but rather an accident. Although we've gotten along very well this past month, Gerald, his meticulous care has touched my heart. I think he has feelings for me too. But what does that even matter? This accident gave rise to many beautiful things, but fundamentally, it shouldn't have existed. Once freed from the ties of children, our little bit of affection might shatter very quickly. Gerald's such a clever person. How could he not understand what I meant? There are no what-ifs. His eyes darkened, the pitch-black depths seemingly swirling with storms. With me here, you and the child will be safe. I promised we'd have a happy family, and we will. I was taken aback by the weight of his assurance, momentarily at a loss for words. The baby is almost 10 weeks now. His tone softened slightly. Tell your parents as soon as possible. Just thinking about this makes my heart leap into my throat. It's still too early. Maybe we should wait a bit longer. You should have told your parents immediately when this happened. It's already been delayed for too long, and I don't recommend you keep hiding it. Gerald hooked his hand with mine and gently held it. Don't be afraid. I'll face it with you. His voice seemed to have a magical quality, dispelling the unease in my heart. Gerald still listened to me. He didn't come out of the building until after I left. When I returned to the cafe, Sarah couldn't wait to ask, Odelia, you had just left when the genius went out right after you. Did you run into each other in the bathroom? I pretended not to know. No. Then why did it take you so long to come back? She sounded disappointed. I thought you two had started talking. I forced a dry laugh. You guessed it right. A few girls at the next table were whispering, these university folks really have wild imaginations. Exactly. Gerald would never talk to her. Don't they have a cafe at their own school? Maybe they're just here to stalk Gerald. Sarah glared at them angrily. I held her back and said calmly, ignore them. You can never control what others say. I told my dad that the scholarship had come through and wanted to treat him and Mom to a meal. Without much thought, Dad happily agreed. We scheduled it for Friday evening, meeting the parents for the first time. Gifts are naturally a must. On Wednesday afternoon, neither Gerald nor I had classes, so we arranged to meet at a shopping mall in the city. The traffic was terrible, and I was half an hour late. By the time I arrived, he had already bought everything. For my mom, it was a set of high-end skincare products and a box of Bird's Nest. For my dad, it was 2 bottles of Mutai and a set of purple clay teaware. I was somewhat surprised that none of the gifts he picked out alone turned out to be disappointing. It's still early. Do you want to watch a movie? He took out his phone to check the screening schedule at the cinema upstairs. What kind of movies do you like? In the end, we chose a popular comedy that had been released recently. Gerald bought the tickets and pulled me towards the elevator. The warmth from his palm transferred over, making my heartbeat quicken slightly. The mall is crowded, and kids often run around. I didn't want you to get bumped into. His voice was as indifferent as ever. but I noticed his ears had turned completely red. I lowered my head and chuckled to myself, unable to resist giving his hand a squeeze. His fingers looked bony and well-defined, but they felt unexpectedly soft to the touch. After getting the tickets, I took a seat in the waiting area to rest. Gerald went to queue up for drinks and popcorn. Someone suddenly called me from behind. I turned around and saw my ex-boyfriend Henry. He was holding hands with a slender and beautiful girl, Odelia. "It really is you." Henry walked over with the girl, looking somewhat surprised. "Seriously, you didn't even dress up when going out, so plain." I used to never leave the house without makeup. I loved wearing spaghetti strap maxi dresses, and all my shoes had heels, but after getting pregnant, I've been very careful about these things, prioritizing convenience and comfort. Aksu. "Is she your classmate?" the girl asked curiously. Henry didn't hide it and admitted that I was his ex-girlfriend. He explained that we were in the same university but different departments, and hadn't been in contact since breaking up. "Odelia. This is my girlfriend Jeffrey," Henry introduced to me, "a freshman at the dance academy." His words were dripping with superiority. I nodded faintly. "Congratulations. By the way, why are you watching the movie alone?" He glanced around, his tone dripping with sympathy. "Still single, huh? Not to be harsh, but you really need to work on that temper of yours. Otherwise, even the best man would be driven away." The best man he mentioned was probably referring to himself. I chuckled. "Sorry to disappoint, but my boyfriend is in line buying popcorn." He froze for a moment, craning his neck to look in that direction. "Which one? The most handsome one? Hey, isn't that Gerald?" Gerald was well known to everyone at University B. No wonder he recognized it at a glance. "So he's your boyfriend?" Henry chuckled. "You're still such a joker." I guessed he wouldn't believe it, but couldn't be bothered to explain. Less than 5 minutes after they left, Gerald returned with food, handing me a drink. "Sorry, it was a bit crowded." "It's okay." I took it and had a sip. The cola was replaced with freshly squeezed orange juice, still at room temperature. "The air conditioning is strong in here. Put this on later." Like a magician, he pulled a long-sleeved shirt from his backpack. I froze for a moment, suddenly feeling my heartbeat quicken uncontrollably. I've noticed Gerald has quite a gap between his appearance and his true nature. Jet black hair, almond-shaped eyes, a straight nose, and thin lips. His looks alone give off an aura of extreme aloofness. The occasional flashes of shrewdness and nonchalance he displays can also be somewhat infuriating. After getting to know him, you'd realize he's actually very gentle. He does everything with meticulous care, leaving no room for criticism. His appearance seems to be his least remarkable virtue. "Gerald, what's wrong? Do you like me? Or do you just like children?" I never managed to ask in the end. Whispered, "It's about to start. Let's go in." He glanced at his watch and took my hand, advised, "It's dark inside. Walk slowly." On Friday afternoon, I received Gerald's phone message, revising my thesis with the professor. "Might be late." My eyes widened as I frantically typed on my phone. "How can you be late for your first meal with my parents?" Before I could hit send, Dad's call came through. "Honey, I'm helping a student with their thesis today, so I might leave a bit later." Dad's voice was gentle and kind. "What time is the restaurant reservation? Is it okay if we go a bit later?" I quickly replied, Sure, no problem." After hanging up, I felt something was off. Wait, how could such a coincidence happen? I immediately contacted Gerald. "Hey, are you at Professor Alice's place?" "Yes." "What's a quantum mechanics researcher doing showing papers to a calculus teacher?" "Mathematical theory is the cornerstone of science. I have some questions about the application of calculus in quantum mechanics in the paper that I'd like to discuss with Professor Alice." "I don't understand." "Stop talking," I asked directly. "Did you already know Professor Alice is my father?" "I also know Professor Guan from the chemistry department is your mom. I audited her elective course before." He smiled faintly. "You look just like her." So he had known all along. No wonder the gift was chosen so effortlessly. So they've been secretly observing their preferences all along. I gritted my teeth. "Where are you?" "Your dad's office." "Wait for me." After hanging up the phone, I grabbed my bag and headed straight next door to University A. Familiar with the route, I found the office effortlessly. As soon as I pushed the door open, I saw Gerald. He was hunched over, hands clasped behind his back, listening intently to the person beside him. Hearing the noise, both of them turned to look at me. "Odelia. Why are you here?" Dad asked. I bit my lip and slowly shuffled over. "Dad, where's Mom? She doesn't have classes this afternoon. She's resting in the dorm. I'll call her later." Dad tapped a few keys on the keyboard and said to the person beside him, "Review what I just told you when you get back. Come find me anytime if you have questions." Gerald nodded. "Okay, thank you, Professor. You're welcome." Dad waved his hand, his eyes suddenly lighting up behind his glasses as he said with a smile, "Xiaoqi, do you have plans tonight? My daughter rarely treats anyone to dinner. Why don't you join us?" Gerald curved his lips slightly upward. "Sure." Dad happily slapped his thigh and said, "Let me introduce you first. This is my daughter Odelia, a sophomore in the foreign languages department at B University next door. If I remember correctly, she should be 2 years younger than you." I tightened my grip on the backpack strap and spoke with difficulty. "Dad, no need for introductions." "Oh, I didn't mean anything by it. I just wanted to. We know each other." I swallowed back "he's the father of my child" and replaced it with a more acceptable phrasing. "He's my boyfriend." Private dining room. After some small talk, Dad couldn't resist gossiping. "Odelia, how did you manage to win him over? Who chased him?" "Clearly, he was the one pursuing me. Although I was the one who got drunk first and clung to him back then, he was the one who took me to a hotel room. Later, it was also him who proposed dating with marriage as the premise. I've always been the passive one in this." The elderly couple opposite exchanged a glance, their lips quirking simultaneously. They actually didn't believe it. They even found it amusing. Gerald said calmly, "It's true that I pursued Odelia first." Dad was stunned, then burst into laughter. "With the time you spent chasing her, you could have published an SCI paper." Mom also laughed. "Who knew Xiaoqi was such a smooth talker?" "Me. Whose parents are they really?" "As it turned out," Gerald said earnestly, "it's true that I liked her first." The air suddenly fell silent. I couldn't help but steal a glance at Gerald. Wow, as expected of an academic genius, even lying is this impressive. Mom was delighted, her eyes crinkling with laughter. "How long have you two been together?" I hung my head, twisting the tablecloth with my fingers, stammering. He said, "Last month." "No, it should be the month before last." Gerald noticed I was nervous and held my hand. Just then, the waiter came in to serve the dishes. The sour aroma of sweet and sour pork wafted over from afar. Normally I love this smell, but today it made me feel slightly nauseous. I forced myself to take a couple of bites, feeling my stomach churn. Yuck. I couldn't help but drop my chopsticks and start retching. Everyone froze. Gerald calmly patted my back. Dad picked up the sweet and sour pork and gave it a sniff. "Is it spoiled?" But Mom's look at me changed. My breath tightened. The next second, whether you stretch your neck or shrink it, the blade falls the same. I might as well lay all my cards on the table, only turning that night's accident into a moment of lover's passion. The air was deathly still. Father's face turned ashen, his hands trembling as he gripped the teacup. Mother remained relatively calm and asked about our plans moving forward. Gerald stood up and bowed to them, honestly promising to take responsibility for me and the child, and expressed the desire to register their marriage first, then hold the wedding after graduation. My parents passed away during my second year of high school, leaving only an apartment in the city. Over the years, I've saved some money, with a portion invested in a friend's company, earning annual dividends. I'll also consider other investment opportunities when they arise, ensuring that financially, Odelia will never be at a disadvantage. Additionally, my application for a combined master's and doctoral program in my field has been approved. After graduation, I plan to work in the city, possibly at a research institute recommended by my advisor or starting a company with friends. Regardless of the choice, I will prioritize my family as much as possible. In the days to come, I will wholeheartedly accompany Odelia and our child. I will never be absent from any experience they go through as their husband and father. This is my promise. Gerald spoke very sincerely, even presenting the property deed and bank deposit certificates. Uncle and aunt, I truly love Odelia, please entrust her to me. After speaking, he bowed deeply once more. I stared blankly at Gerald. Feeling utterly shocked, his words undoubtedly revealed the depth of his feelings for me, yet I didn't even know when he had started liking me. Could it be that he deliberately said those things just to fulfill his obligation of marrying me? And this was the first time I heard him talk about his family. In his second year of high school, a sudden change struck his family. Both his parents passed away. He had to live alone before even reaching adulthood, the pressure of college entrance exams, the hardship of life. It wasn't until he got admitted to University A that things took a turn for the better. I was completely unaware and even asked him when he would take me to meet his parents. At that time, he appeared perfectly normal and calmly said it would happen sometime later. Now I understand. He probably wanted to wait until tomb sweeping time. Later, I was so lost in thought that I barely paid attention to their conversation. I only remember my parents saying a lot to him, and he nodded obediently the whole time. When parting, Gerald loaded the gifts he had prepared in advance into Dad's car. My parents were still furious and didn't give him a friendly look in the end. After returning home, Mom pulled me into the room for a talk. She asked if I really wanted to marry Gerald. If I truly wanted to spend my life with him, marriage would be the simplest way. But if all you want is a child, keeping the baby without the father is also an option. This time I didn't hesitate, openly expressing my desire to be with Gerald. I've never easily developed feelings for anyone since childhood. Gerald was the exception. Falling for him seemed like such an easy thing to do. I thought Gerald had already returned to school. I never expected he'd come back to the city too. At 11 o'clock at night, he sent a message. Are you asleep? I'm downstairs at your place. Can you come down? I rubbed my eyes, somewhat surprised. Quickly changing clothes, I tiptoed out the door. Gerald stood under the camphor tree in the yard with his hands in his pockets. The dim streetlight cast a small circle of light around him. Watching him from afar, several thoughts suddenly popped into my mind. I want to touch him, to press against him, to listen to his heartbeat. By the time I came to my senses, my legs had already started running on their own. Gerald, rarely flustered, hurried over to support me. Scolding tone, why are you running? I panted slightly, catching my breath. I was afraid you'd wait too long. Gerald paused, his dark eyes swirling with unreadable emotions. You never said you wouldn't come down. He lowered his gaze awkwardly. So I wouldn't leave before you arrived. I looked up at him, feeling as if something had lightly tickled my heart. After a pause, I couldn't help but ask, why did you come so late? Nothing much. Just wanted to see you. We just saw each other tonight. He pursed his lips. Did you get scolded after coming back? So that's what he was worried about. I smiled and said, they never scold me. That's good then. The two stood facing each other. Only the soft evening breeze broke the silence. We spoke at the same time. He paused for a moment, then relaxed and said, you go first. I asked bluntly, were you sincere in what you said to my parents today? He frowned, looking very serious. Of course I was. Do you like me too? I could hardly believe it. You really like me? He gazed at me deeply, a faint curve tugging at the corner of his lips. I thought I'd made it quite obvious. He sighed softly and squeezed my hand tightly. I like you, Odelia. I've liked you for a long time, since before you knew. For a moment, it felt like the whole world had stopped. The sound of the wind gradually faded away, leaving only the fervent pounding of my heart in my ears. I stared blankly at the man before me, as joy burst into fireworks in my heart. So my feelings before weren't false after all. He really does like me. What about you? Gerald asked slowly. Do you like me? It seemed he had been holding this question in his heart for a long time. I clutched the hem of my clothes and nodded with a reddened face. Ask this question to 10,000 girls, and you won't get a second answer. The evening breeze rustled through the dense camphor trees, making a whispering sound. Gerald and I looked at each other, moving closer in silent understanding. The next second, he gently pulled me into his embrace. Do you remember my promise? I said there would be love between us. He bent over, resting his chin on the top of my head. His voice was deep and gentle. We will definitely be happy touched in my heart. I tightly hugged his waist. Gerald is very concerned about my physical condition. Every day he asks me what I've eaten, calculating my nutritional intake. Later, I developed a habit of taking a photo of my meal and sending it to him before eating every time. At 11 weeks pregnant, I started craving food. I especially wanted to eat junk food. Gerald wouldn't let me eat too much, so I secretly bought it. That afternoon I went to the supermarket again, wandering around the snack section like a freed little bird. In no time, a small mountain had piled up in the shopping cart. "Odelia," suddenly, someone called out to me from behind. My body stiffened, and I turned around with trembling hesitation. Gerald held a shopping basket, gazing at me with calm composure. His dark eyes narrowed slightly, as sharp and piercing as a hawk's. I instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Oh, what a coincidence. I blocked the shopping cart and let out an awkward chuckle. Gerald pulled me aside and started sorting the junk food in the cart. He kept what he considered edible and put all the rest back. When I finally settled the bill, I was left with almost nothing. "Gerald, you've gone too far." Tears welled up in my eyes as I felt wronged. "I just wanted to eat some chips," Gerald said calmly. "Didn't I leave you 2 bags? 2 bags aren't even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. Your teeth gaps aren't that big." Stop messing around." He gently pinched my cheek. "Want to have dinner together tonight?" I said angrily. "No, last time we almost got seen by classmates. Am I that embarrassing to be seen with?" "Yes, fine. We won't go out this time then." He smiled faintly. "Let's go to my rented apartment. I'll cook for you." I froze for a moment, doubting if I had misheard. "When did you rent the apartment?" "Wait, you can cook." Gerald took me to the apartment he rented near the school. A small 2-bedroom apartment, furnished only with basic furniture, empty, with no signs of having been lived in. "Haven't you moved in yet?" "Not yet, but it's been cleaned." He handed me a pair of slippers and helped me put them on. I looked around. It was spotlessly clean. A faint scent of lemon lingered in the air. It smelled very pleasant. "I'll go cook. Make yourself at home." Gerald handed me a bottle of water, then rolled up his sleeves and headed into the kitchen. An hour later, 4 dishes and a soup were laid out on the table. They looked quite appetizing. I picked up the chopsticks and took a bite, my face filled with shock. "You actually know how to cook." Sarah was right. Nuwa must have put too much effort into sculpting him. If someone is good-looking, academically brilliant, emotionally stable, and even cooks well, then what flaws could they possibly have? Let's have dinner here from now on. Homemade meals are more nutritionally balanced and cleaner than eating out. Gerald calmly placed a piece of meat in my bowl. "You can even take a nap on the bed if you're tired." I glanced toward the bedroom, feeling my ears grow warm. Every time I visit the apartment, I notice a few more things in the room. In less than half a month, the empty house began to feel like a home. The bed was dressed with a brand new set of bedding, and you could catch the scent of laundry detergent beads when you got close. The spare bedroom was converted into a study, with shelves crammed full of books on mechanics and calculus. The kitchen was stocked with matching bowls and chopsticks, and the refrigerator was filled with food. I walked into the bathroom and even found a pair of toothbrushes. There was a cute pot of succulents on the windowsill. "Gerald, you're really too..." I couldn't help but gasp. "It's too meticulous." Gerald walked up behind me, gazing at me through the bathroom mirror. He wrapped his arms around my waist, gently caressing my slightly rounded belly. "The baby's getting bigger," he said softly. "Move in with me. Let me take care of you." My breath hitched as I turned to face him. "There's only one bed, Shall we share it? Is it okay?" A scorching gaze fell upon me. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. "What if my parents don't agree?" "I'll go talk." Gerald placed both hands on either side of the sink, gently encircling me in his arms. "The key question now is, do you want to live with me?" He lowered his gaze to study me, trying to read the most genuine reaction on my face. My voice wavered slightly. "You wouldn't do anything to me, right? Do you think I asked you to move in just because I wanted to do something to you?" His expression was somewhat indescribable. "Are you thinking of me as too despicable?" I licked my lips, "but I haven't figured out how to explain it to my roommate yet." "Why do you need to explain it to them? They'll definitely ask if I suddenly move out." "Then just tell them the truth." But, baby, just move in with me. He lowered his head, his warm breath brushing against my ear. Promise me. Okay. At this moment, Gerald seemed to suddenly become a different person, no longer the aloof, ethereal academic genius who seemed above worldly affairs. I seemed to catch glimpses of certain inherent flaws in him that belonged exclusively to bad boys. Gerald, maybe we should wait. Before I could finish speaking, his warm hands cupped my face. His cool lips brushed against the tip of my nose before capturing mine. This was no longer the tentative kiss from before. His kiss was no longer gentle and inexperienced, but a fervent plunder. His taste spread across my lips and tongue. Like poisonous honey, it was irresistible, making me crave for more. That very night, I received a call from my mother. Odelia, are you planning to move in with Gerald? I glanced at the person in the kitchen, covered the microphone, and walked out to the balcony. How did you know? I heard he rented a place outside. Mom clicked her tongue and said, listen carefully. I don't agree with this matter. Didn't you and Dad say you wouldn't oppose our marriage? That's a separate issue. You can't live together. Why, we already have a child. It's all because we have a child now, Mom said earnestly. Early 20s is when a man's energy is at its peak. Do you really think he could resist if you slept together? Blushing with embarrassment, I replied, Mom, what are you thinking about? This is a very practical issue. That guy should be able to hold back. Mom sneered. Back then, he couldn't even wait the time it takes to put on a condom, I hurriedly explained. He did wear one. He did. Then how did you get pregnant? What should I say? Accidentally did it the third time. Oh Mom, just don't worry about it. Mom couldn't win against my persistence and hung up the phone unhappily. I stood by the window, watching my reflection in the glass. I touched my lips, which still seemed to carry Gerald's warmth. It felt like we'd been kissing all day today. I lost count of how many times. It seems like just one glance is enough to make them kiss uncontrollably. Promise me, and I'll let you go, baby. Say you like me. Move in with me tomorrow. Okay. After repeated friction, I raised the white flag in surrender, yet, having tasted the sweetness, he still refused to let me go. When I came to my senses, I shyly covered my face. Help, this man is absolutely toxic, still extremely toxic. Summer vacation is about to start. I plan to move there after the holiday. After making the decision, I started gradually transferring my luggage. Sometimes it's a few books, sometimes it's a few pieces of clothing. Before I knew it, more than half of the dorm room's belongings were gone. That day, I heard a new milk tea shop had opened nearby. Their signature coconut jasmine milk tea was quite popular. Sarah asked if I wanted to go for a drink. I glanced at Gerald's class schedule. He had class, so it was safe, so I happily went. We sat in the shop enjoying the air conditioning and drinking milk tea, comfortable and delightful, still craving more after finishing. We bought another cup before leaving. It's midsummer, and even the wind feels hot. Sarah suddenly screamed, oh my God, that's Gerald, right? My heart tightened as I followed her gaze. Gerald stood at the entrance of the fruit shop, his tall figure quite eye-catching, holding a bag of peaches in his hand. He was taking photos with his phone. Soon, I received a phone message, for the princess to eat. The photo is that bag of peaches. I was breaking out in a cold sweat. No way, he skips classes too. No matter how many times I see it, it still amazes me. Sarah nudged me. Odelia, let's go ask for their phone. Gerald, the moment he lifted his eyelids, I immediately hid the milk tea behind my back. The bag tore, and the milk tea spilled all over the ground. It soaked my flats, leaving them sticky. I was on the verge of tears. Do you have any tissues? Sarah checked her pockets and shook her head. At that moment, Gerald was already walking over. He picked up the milk tea from the ground, threw it into the trash can, and pulled out a pack of tissues. Then he crouched down in front of me and meticulously wiped my shoes clean. The non-dairy creamer in milk tea can easily increase the risk of cardiovascular diseases, cause metabolic abnormalities, and lead to nutritional imbalances. He glanced up at me, his expression unreadable. Drink less of it in the future. The corner of my mouth twitched. Weren't you in class, checking my schedule before sneaking around? I'm looking openly and honestly. Heh, Gerald smirked coldly. There is a class, but I'm exempt, surprised. Beside them, Sarah was stunned. Odelia, you know each other. The air suddenly fell silent. Gerald glanced at me and said calmly, I'm her boyfriend. Sarah suddenly widened her eyes. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, if I hadn't covered her mouth in time. She might have cursed until dark. Later, she promised to keep her mouth shut on the condition of getting a glimpse of Gerald's abs. Without a second thought, I lifted Gerald's shirt. Gerald, Sarah promised to keep it a secret for me. But the news that Gerald and I were together still spread like wildfire. Odelia, I swear it wasn't me who told. Sarah slid on her knees all the way to me. If you show me your husband's abs, we'll be besties for life. I'd never betray you. The corner of my mouth twitched. I know it wasn't you. It was my dad's doing. Yesterday afternoon, Gerald was called into the office by Professor Xavier from the geology department. When Dad passed by, Professor Xavier was enthusiastically promoting his daughter. Out of politeness, Gerald waited until he finished speaking before declining. However, Professor Xavier had no intention of giving up. He used the excuse that his daughter was also in the physics department. Claiming the two would have common ground, he even mentioned they were both in a combined master's and PhD program, so they could support each other in the future. Hearing this, Dad couldn't take it anymore. Charge straight in and declare your identity. Don't you dare lay a finger on my son-in-law. Professor Xavier was instantly stunned. Your son-in-law, Gerald, is my daughter's boyfriend, the one studying at University B next door. How many daughters do you think I have? Oh, come on. That's impossible. Why is it impossible? Although Professor Xavier didn't say it outright, his words clearly implied that Gerald and I aren't a good match. Upon hearing this, Dad grew even angrier. Look down on University B or look down on liberal arts students. My daughter speaks 3 foreign languages and ranks first in her department every year. 2 science-oriented minds gave birth to a liberal arts student. My parents certainly faced no shortage of teasing back then. But they never saw it as a problem, even encouraging me to pursue the major I loved. Back then, I missed the admission to University A's linguistics department by just 2 points, which became their lifelong regret. Professor Xavier's words just now undoubtedly hit my father where it hurts. Gerald, you tell us yourself, who exactly are you dating? Seeing their disbelief, Dad directly handed the microphone to the person involved. Gerald genuinely cares for his father-in-law, affectionately calling him Dad at every turn. He also mentioned that he had already proposed to me and was just waiting for my acceptance. Professor Xavier was completely stunned upon hearing this. Later, the news spread throughout University A and quickly reached University B. During the morning break, a few girls were peeking around outside the classroom. Sarah leaned in and whispered to me, "Oh no, they're here for you." I swallowed hard. What do you mean? I know one of them. The campus belle from University A, she held up 3 fingers, chased Gerald for 3 years. I couldn't help but glance over, thinking this girl really has perseverance. Just then, it got noisy outside, as if someone was arguing. Never thought she'd have the skills to catch that big shot. You've got it backwards. The one with the means is Gerald. He knows how to climb the social ladder. Gerald is the face of a university. Someone that outstanding wouldn't need to climb their family's social ladder. Her parents are both professors at a university. That counts as coming from an intellectual family, right? So what? She still didn't get into a university herself, did she? But I heard Gerald comes from a very average family. Some say I'm not worthy. I just think they're talking nonsense. But when I heard someone mocking Gerald, I felt a bit annoyed. That's fake, all rumors. A girl in the class suddenly spoke up. Gerald is such an aloof person. How could he be with the professor's daughter? Isn't he just asking to be criticized behind his back? Others who heard it nodded in agreement. Yeah, if he had any dignity at all, he wouldn't mess with the professor's daughter. Those voices seemed to carry thorns, piercing the ears and leaving nothing but discomfort. I stood up and said calmly, "What does this have to do with dignity? Gerald can't just simply like me for who I am. Am I not presentable without my parents?" The surroundings suddenly fell silent. Sarah gave me a thumbs up. "Odelia, you're awesome." I rushed back to the dorm as soon as class ended. thinking I could finally have some peace and quiet. Little did I know the fervent wind still blew my way. Odelia, Gerald, was he always this aloof when he was with you? How did you meet? When did you start dating? What's his physique like? How about those six-pack abs? The girls meant no harm, they were just genuinely curious. Just as I was feeling a headache coming on, Gerald sent a message. I'm downstairs at your place. I hurried to the balcony, opened the window, and looked down. Gerald stood downstairs with his hands in his pockets, looking up as if searching for something. When he saw me, a charming smile curved at the corners of his lips. The midday sun was too bright, making him squint slightly. A scorching breeze ruffled his fluffy, soft black hair, and carried his voice to my ears. Girlfriend, I've come to pick you up. I stared at him blankly, my heart pounding wildly. The school was too noisy, so I simply stayed at the apartment. Mom didn't say anything more after hearing about it. Early the next morning, Gerald drove me to school. Unexpectedly, we ran into Henry and his gang on the way. Henry, isn't this your ex-girlfriend? His roommate said with a smirk. Damn. So the rumors were true. Henry had a face as dark as a pot's bottom, glaring at us gloomily, ignoring his gaze. I pulled Gerald and walked past him. Odelia, Henry suddenly called out to me. Are you messing with me? I turned around in confusion. What's wrong with you? The person you've always liked in your heart is him, isn't it? Henry sneered. You couldn't get him, so you settled for me. And then dumped me after hooking up with him. What kind of game is this? Am I just a plaything in your little drama? What a huge accusation. Why don't you become a screenwriter since you're so good at making up stories? If she had fallen for me earlier, what would you even matter? Gerald coldly glanced at Henry, as if looking at a clown. You might not realize this, but I liked her first. It was my negligence that gave you an opening. Otherwise, it would never have been your turn. You deserve to be dumped. You were never good enough for her. Gerald has a knack for humiliating people. Henry was so angry that his lips turned pale, and his face alternated between shades of green and purple, still trying to be part of our play. Don't flatter yourself. Gerald continued to add insult to injury. Cut out those baseless assumptions of yours. Don't make people think you're an idiot, Henry snapped. Gerald, you motherfucker. He was about to lunge forward but was held back by his roommate. Forget it, forget it, forget it, Gerald sneered and pulled me away. I sighed and said, well, did you see that this time? I had previously told Gerald that I had a really stupid ex-boyfriend. Gerald didn't believe it, thinking my judgment couldn't possibly be that poor. I said Henry is too good at acting and putting on a facade. When pursuing me, he couldn't wait to showcase all his best qualities, but shortly after we started dating, most of his true colors were revealed. We had a total of 3 conflicts. The first time, he lied to me about studying in the library when he was actually spending the night at an internet cafe with a girl. The second time, he accepted cookies from a female classmate. The third time was because of a stray cat. A cat shelter was set up downstairs at the girls' dormitory, where several stray cats were taken care of. We pooled money to buy food, vaccinate, and neuter the kittens. But later, someone poisoned the cat food, killing all the kittens. Only 2 kittens still nursing survived. I cried so hard in my dorm that I soaked 2 pillows, then called Henry to complain. He was gaming at an internet cafe and said impatiently, "Can you stop being such a do-gooder? Stray cats die all the time. Why get so upset about it?" I felt utterly powerless against this person's character, realizing any further words would be wasted breath, so I decisively broke up with him and blocked his phone. We had only been dating for a month. That same night I received Henry's text message. "Do you really think someone like Gerald could genuinely like you? Don't be naive. He's interested in your parents. I'm just giving you well-intentioned advice. I don't want to see you get scammed. You'd better remind your dad too. Don't let him pull any strings." At that time, I had just finished showering and was leaning on the sofa eating cherries. Gerald sat beside me. Reaching out to catch the pits I spat out, noticing I was upset, asked, "Who contacted you?" I calmly blocked the number. "Ex-boyfriend," Gerald said coldly. "Why is he barking like a dog at this hour?" "Ignore him, he's just a lunatic." I picked up a cherry and placed it by his lips. Calling him an idiot would be too generous. Gerald gazed at me calmly before opening his mouth to bite the cherry. Bright red juice dripped onto my fingertips as his lips pressed against them, sucking lightly. It felt like an electric current was surging wildly through my body. I feel like my breathing is all over the place. We have a prenatal checkup at the hospital tomorrow, so let's rest early. He pressed his forehead against mine and whispered softly, "I'll carry you back to the room." My ears burned as I said, "Then you can't do that today." "Which one?" "That's the one." Gerald smiled and said, "Don't worry, the child won't be affected. I know the child is fine, but I can't stand it." "Why?" "Of course it's because I'm shy. Just thinking about that scene makes my heart feel like it's about to explode." "All right, then I won't touch you," he bargained with me. "Can we at least cuddle while sleeping?" I shook my head firmly. "You're too warm." He remained silent and took off his t-shirt with one hand. I stared at his chest muscles and abs, swallowing hard. Gerald lightly curved his lips. "Can I hug you now?" I closed my eyes. Yes, all blood test results came back normal. During the ultrasound, Gerald held my hand beside me. I seemed to detect a hint of unease beneath his usual calm and composed demeanor. The doctor couldn't help but tease. "When you first came in, you looked like you'd suffered the greatest injustice. I thought your boyfriend was some irresponsible jerk, but now I see that's not the case at all." I scratched my face somewhat awkwardly. I wasn't mentally prepared at that time. "Are you ready now?" I squeezed Gerald's hand and said with a smile, "We're ready to welcome this little life. The test results show the mother is very healthy, and the fetus is developing normally. The second trimester is a critical stage for the fetus's rapid development. The doctor advised me to supplement my nutrition and maintain a happy mood." He also specifically told Gerald to behave himself these months. When leaving the hospital, Gerald's ears were still red. I cheekily gave them a pinch, soft and warm. That afternoon I took him back home. Hearing the child was healthy made both parents very happy. During dinner, Gerald brought up the topic of marriage himself. Considering the children were getting older, the elderly couple nodded in agreement. They told us to pick a date we liked to register our marriage. I just opened the almanac to start researching. Gerald made the decision outright: the day after tomorrow. It's an auspicious day for marriage, so on that day, we somewhat confusedly got our marriage certificate. My head was still spinning as I walked out of the civil affairs office. "Wait, let me take another look at the photo." I snatched the red booklet from Gerald's hands, glanced through it, then closed it in agony. "Why do I look so ugly in this photo? When the photographer asked you to choose, you clearly said this one was the best looking," Gerald said calmly. "Actually, it's not ugly, you're overthinking it." I flipped it open again for another look, then said through gritted teeth, "How come you look so good? This isn't fair." Gerald put away the marriage certificate with a speechless expression, carefully placing it in the inner pocket of his backpack. I snorted, "Buy me ice cream and I'll forgive you." "Deal, let's go get some now." "You're actually letting me eat ice cream? Because today is a special day." He bent down to kiss my cheek, smiling faintly. "You can do whatever you want." Sunlight poured down like liquid gold, casting a beautiful hue on his snow-white shirt. He gazed at me tenderly, his eyes seemingly holding a sky full of stars. I couldn't help but stand on tiptoe and take a playful bite at his Adam's apple, giggling mischievously. "Still want to tease you." The day before summer vacation, someone spread rumors online that I was pregnant. Suddenly, Gerald and I became the talk of both school forums. At first, some people didn't believe it until that person posted a set of photos. In the photos, Gerald and I were holding registration slips while queuing in the obstetrics and gynecology department. He had one arm around my shoulder and the other hand resting on my belly. Even a fool could tell what was happening from such a heartwarming scene. Holy shit. It's Thor's hammer. Never expected the top student to be this fierce. The girl isn't someone to be trifled with either. The professor's daughter got pregnant before marriage. The situation escalated too quickly, catching everyone off guard. Many classmates I know have already come to me for gossip. Although I had long been prepared to go public, I never imagined it would happen in this way. Who took those photos? Who would do such a thankless and unethical thing? That afternoon, Gerald posted on his social media, The photos were of our marriage certificate. Caption, "The girl I love." I gave him a like, then saved the picture and posted it on my social media. Caption, "My husband is the most handsome in the universe." Our friend circle was screenshotted by a classmate and posted on the forum. Soon, it exploded again. Damn, already married. But judging by the timeline, it's definitely a case of pregnancy before marriage, right? There are many cases of premarital pregnancy. Who among young people hasn't had an accident? Back off, everyone. Stop the criticism. What's it to you? Show some concern for the pregnant woman and keep your comments to yourselves. The vast majority of people are rational, just watching for the fun of it. But some people sent me private messages calling me shameless. I blocked those people and deleted the messages, feeling upset, but didn't want Gerald to know. Sarah called specifically to comfort me. She told me to relax and focus on my pregnancy, not to listen to those barking dogs. We even made plans to go shopping this summer to buy little socks for the baby. I talked with her for a long time before my mood gradually calmed down. When I came back from summer vacation, my belly was already quite noticeable. Passing classmates couldn't help but stare at my stomach. Some curious girls even asked if they could touch it, especially Sarah. I touch it 800 times a day. That day during break, we were basking in the sun in the hallway. Sarah bent over, carefully examining my belly. "Odelia, it's been 5 months already. Is it normal to be this small?" I asked the doctor, and she said it's fine. Is it a boy or a girl? That, I don't know. Just then, someone swaggered over. "It's Henry, Odelia. Is your husband hiding something from you?" His tone was playful, as if he'd finally found an opportunity to tease me. I said coldly, "We have no secrets between us." Henry was taken aback for a moment before bursting into laughter. "Did he ever tell you that his uncle was imprisoned for a crime, leaving the children in the family with no one to support them? For years, he's been providing for them, and that child still frequently asks him for money." "Odelia, did you know that your precious husband has been acting as someone else's ATM? You investigated him." I clenched my fist, my tone icy. "What right do you have to investigate him? I'm doing this for your own good. I don't want you to be kept in the dark." Henry wore a "don't be ungrateful" expression. "Everyone says he's heaven's favored one, but I think he's nothing special. With family like that holding him back, he'll never be able to turn his life around. In a couple of years, when his uncle gets out of prison and sees him doing well, he'll definitely find a way to cling to him. And by then your family will be dragged into it too." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath to steady myself, and suddenly remembered something. "Those photos on the forum, you didn't post them, did you?" I stared into his eyes. "It was you who secretly photographed me and Gerald at the hospital that day, wasn't it?" Henry instinctively wanted to deny it, but the panic in his eyes betrayed him. "It was really you." My voice trembled. "Why would you do this? Why else? Revenge, okay?" He had nothing left to lose and stopped hiding it. "Odelia, I genuinely liked you once, but how did you treat me? You gave me a huge green hat, made me the laughingstock until I couldn't hold my head up. I didn't even know him back then. How could I have given you a green hat? The baby's due date doesn't lie. You slept with him right after we broke up, and you still claim there was nothing going on between you. Don't be ridiculous. I had already broken up with you for over a month when I got together with him. That was a unilateral breakup you initiated. I never agreed to it. I made up my mind to break up. What does your agreement have to do with it?" I sneered coldly. "Henry, let bygones be bygones, but don't provoke me again in the future." Sarah flipped him the middle finger and said, "Don't mess with us again." Henry narrowed his eyes slightly and suddenly let out a soft chuckle, cleared his throat and shouted, "Gerald is harboring the son of a criminal in his home. Their family is a bottomless pit. How dare you say he truly loves you? He's nothing but a complete hypocrite, a social climbing gold digger. You think marrying you is him taking responsibility. You and your child are just stepping stones for him." People coming and going in the hallway overheard and began whispering among themselves. I was so furious that I slapped him hard across the face. "Shut the hell up." Henry staggered back, clutching his face in shock and anger, shouting, "How dare you hit me? You're exactly who I wanted to hit." I clenched my numb palm, suppressing the surging emotions. "I know Gerald better than you do. How dare you slander him in front of me? Who do you think you are?" Before marriage, Gerald had openly told me about his family affairs. Mom and Dad were aware of it too. Back then, Gerald's family factory caught fire. His parents and more than a dozen employees didn't make it out. To compensate the families of the deceased, Gerald used up all his savings. Even during the toughest times, he couldn't bring himself to sell his parents' house. Later, he was admitted to University A and received a scholarship. Everything finally got better. But in his freshman year, his uncle was framed and sent to prison. His aunt ran off with someone else, abandoning his cousin who was still in school. He couldn't bear to see his cousin drop out, so he helped out financially time and again. The boy is now in his third year of high school and will take the college entrance exam next year. I heard his grades are good, so getting a scholarship shouldn't be a problem. In a few years, his uncle will be released from prison, and the family can be reunited. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction. It's not as bad as Henry made it out to be. "Henry, you fucking idiot." After shouting this insult, I felt a sudden pain in my abdomen. I instinctively clutched my stomach. "Odelia, are you okay?" Sarah noticed my pale complexion and quickly supported me. Henry defended himself. "This has nothing to do with me." With that, he ran off, afraid I'd pin the blame on him. More and more students gathered around. Someone called 120 for help. "Odelia," Gerald pushed through the crowd and ran over, taking me from Sarah's hands. The moment I saw him, I felt wronged, tears welling up in my eyes. "Honey, it hurts." Gerald frowned with heartache. He protected my belly and let me lean into his embrace. "Don't worry, the ambulance will be here soon." After examination at the hospital, it was found that the issue wasn't serious. It was just abdominal muscle contraction caused by emotional excitement. There were no signs of bleeding, so no special treatment was needed. Resting in the observation room, Sarah gave an exaggerated account of the scene at the time. Gerald had a tense jaw and looked very upset. Coincidentally, the parents arrived just then. Seeing his expression, Dad thought something was wrong with me. His eyes turned red as he hugged me, tears streaming down. I patted his back and said, "Dad, I'm fine." Sarah saw the elderly couple and recounted the incident once more. Upon hearing this, both parents were furious and insisted on writing a complaint letter to the school. "Have Henry apologize in person and promise not to bother us again." Gerald listened quietly and then said calmly, "Dad and Mom, leave this matter to me." Dad knew he was reliable, so he simply let him handle it. He also instructed, "Make sure you cover everything thoroughly." The next morning, I was still fast asleep in my apartment. Sarah woke me up with a phone call. "Odelia, something terrible has happened." I was instantly wide awake. "What's wrong?" "This morning at B University's cafeteria, Gerald grabbed Henry by the collar and dragged him away. Half an hour later, Henry reappeared in public view. His face was bruised, he limped, and his voice was hoarse. His eyes were red, as if he had been crying for a long time. Sarah was so excited that her description was utterly extravagant. But I had no mood to listen anymore and hurriedly got up and left the house. When I arrived at a university, Gerald had just come out of the laboratory. He walked past the crowd with a calm expression and came to my side. "Take my hand. Why not sleep a little longer?" My lips trembled, and my eyes stung with tears. "How could you hit him? What if he bites back at you? What if they call the police? What if I complain to Professor A? His application for the combined master's and doctoral program was just approved. What if it gets cancelled because of this? I'm so worried that I can't stop crying." Gerald cupped my face, his thumb wiping away the tears at the corner of my eye. He said flatly, "He fell by himself." Henry issued a statement using his own account that very day, claimed that the injury was from a fall and had nothing to do with anyone else. Also sincerely apologized to me and Gerald. I was completely shocked, asked Gerald what exactly happened. He said something that shocked me even more. It turns out Henry was betting on games outside, when he lost all his money. He helped others write papers to earn extra cash. This situation has been going on for over half a year. "Are you threatening him? Is a threat even necessary?" Gerald said dismissively. I know this matter itself is the greatest threat to him. No wonder he didn't dare speak up even after getting beaten. I pursed my lips and asked again, then why didn't you just report him to the school? Gerald lowered his eyes, gently stroking my belly. He calmly explained. Reporting might lead to disciplinary action or even expulsion, neither of which he could handle. It's wise to leave some room for others. There's no need to push him to desperation and risk him lashing out when cornered. With your pregnancy progressing, I don't want any potential threats to you or our child. An incident occurred when I was 8 months pregnant. That day, Sarah and I went shopping at the mall. Behind Gerald's back, I secretly ate crayfish and ice cream. We also queued up to buy the super popular internet-famous milk tea. It was supposed to be a very happy thing. An accident occurred just as it was about to end. On the way back, there was a chain reaction car accident. The taxi we were in was hit from both the front and the back. Sarah was horrified when she saw the blood seeping through the hem of my skirt, crying. I called an ambulance, then phoned Gerald. By the time I was admitted to the hospital, I had already fallen into a coma. When I woke up, all I saw was a vast white ceiling. The smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils. My first instinct was to touch my stomach. Still here, still alive, Odelia. Gerald saw I was awake and gripped my hand nervously. How are you feeling? I cleared my throat, my voice hoarse. I'm okay, don't worry. His lips trembled, the corners of his eyes wet and red, pressed my hand against his face. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you at that time. His voice was shaking. This is no longer the Gerald I usually know. It's my fault. I took Dong Dong out to sneak a bite while you were giving a report in the lab. My nose tingled with emotion. My voice choked up. I'm sorry. I won't sneak food again. Silly, don't cry. Gerald wiped my face and said, it was an accident. Don't blame yourself. Of course I would blame myself. What if we lose the baby? We've bought so many little clothes and socks. Everyone is looking forward to the arrival of this little life. At this moment, Sarah brought my parents into the ward. Gerald stood up to greet them and excused himself to buy some water. I was afraid the elderly couple would worry, so I showed them my round, bulging belly. After finally comforting them, Sarah started crying again. Odelia, I was absolutely terrified at that moment. While wiping her tears, she blamed herself. It's all my fault. I should have protected you better. The situation was urgent. The car accident happened almost within seconds. An average person simply doesn't have that kind of reaction speed. Don't overthink it. It's not your fault. I comforted her. Sarah glanced toward the door and touched her nose. Odelia, when you were in the operating room, Gerald was crying outside. When the doctor came out and said the situation wasn't good, he immediately said to save the mother. Then he stood alone facing the wall, tears streaming down his face. When you were
pillow. Gerald turned on his side, resting his head on his arm as he smiled at me. Odelia, darling, what? I was too exhausted to even speak. He curved his lips and pulled me into his embrace, then whispered softly in my ear, I love you. Though it's quite cheesy, but, me too, I whispered, I love you too, hubby. Extra, Gerald's perspective. Gerald first met Odelia at the University A cafeteria. The girl had a pair of clear almond-shaped eyes and a bright, radiant smile. Because she had managed to get the most popular sweet and sour pork ribs, her entire little face turned rosy with excitement. It's very strange. He's not the type to easily take a liking to strangers. Yet, he couldn't help but feel his heart race when he saw the girl. The second time he saw her was in Professor Alice's office. There is a photo frame on the shelf behind his desk. It's a family portrait of 3. The girl stands on tiptoe between her parents. Her smile is pure and bright, like a blooming peony. The fragmented sunlight cascaded over her like liquid gold. Her deep brown eyes resembled glistening glass beads. There was a clarity that seemed to penetrate to the very depths. He heard the girl was called Odelia, is Professor Alice's daughter. Still in her senior year of high school, the goal is to get into University A's linguistics department. At that moment, a sudden idea came to him, looking forward to the junior student getting admitted soon. As a result, she failed the exam, but fortunately, she got into the neighboring B University. The foreign language department there is also nationally renowned. Gerald had never pursued a girl before and didn't know how to. Considering his current situation, he backed out. His uncle had just been imprisoned. and his aunt had run away. He also had to temporarily support his cousin, although he currently had no shortage of money thanks to his scholarship, but it's far from enough if you want to fall in love. So he decided to wait a little longer. Coincidentally, a high school classmate was starting a business at that time. Seeing that he had studied a related major, they wanted to bring him on board. Gerald carefully studied their project. He decisively invested most of his savings into it. The results did not disappoint him. The following year, he received a substantial dividend. This amount of money is enough to cover his food and clothing expenses throughout college. Plus, with his scholarship and the money he earns from tutoring, he should be able to afford dating. So he started thinking about confessing his feelings again. That day, he walked into the flower shop with a carefully written love letter in his pocket. He asked someone to wrap a bouquet of flowers suitable for a confession. But just as he stepped out, he ran into an acquaintance at the street corner. The gaunt aunt rushed forward and grabbed him by the collar, beat him, curse him as the son of a murderer. Gerald had a momentary daze, quickly remembered the other's identity, the family member of the victim from the fire at their factory. Although he compensated each family with money after his parents passed away, but the pain of losing a loved one cannot be made up for by money. Gerald let her slap him twice across the face. After she was pulled away by her family, he silently threw the freshly bought flowers and love letter into the trash bin. Such a bright girl shouldn't be with someone like him. But he didn't expect the girl to be pursued by someone else so quickly. The one who pursued Odelia for 3 months finally won the beauty's heart. He saw Odelia holding hands with that guy heading to the milk tea shop. The surging jealousy in his chest threatened to drown him. For the first time, he regretted his own incompetence, regretting the retreat at that moment. However, those two broke up soon after. Counting the days, it probably didn't even last a month. Gerald let out a sigh of relief, thinking his chance had come again, but he soon felt ashamed of his dark thoughts. The girl just went through a breakup. She must be heartbroken. How could he be happy? He was agitated by a mix of joy, worry, and faint anticipation. He, who never attended parties, surprisingly went to the one hosted by his classmates. He even drank several bottles of high-proof beer. Just as his classmates were egging him on to sing, a girl burst into the private room. Her black hair reached her waist, and she wore a white floral maxi dress. Her pale cheeks were flushed with 2 patches of red. She drunkenly lunged toward a boy. Gerald quickly pulled the other person away and stepped forward himself. The girl grabbed him and promptly clung to his body. The people around started to make a fuss. Then someone chimed in. "Are you from University B next door? Don't tell me you're here chasing after Gerald again." Hard to say. She might be pretending to be drunk. Ha 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 ha. Gerald ignored their laughter. He left with "I'll take her back" and took Odelia away. But as soon as they left the private room, Odelia started crying and making a scene. "Is it just because I study liberal arts? So what if I didn't get into University A? Am I worse than others?" "Huh," Gerald whispered soothingly. "You're not worse. You're outstanding." Odelia cried pitifully. "I don't even dare tell people who my parents are. Afraid they'll laugh at me for being brainless." Gerald pursed his lips but still let out a low chuckle. How could she be so adorable? Adorable enough to make him want to take a couple of playful bites. Later, Odelia cried herself to exhaustion and drowsily collapsed into his arms. Her arms looped around his neck as she nuzzled her warm cheeks against the crook of his neck. Gerald's ears flushed red as he shook her. "Wake up. Do you know who I am?" Odelia lifted her head, her eyes hazy. "You're so handsome. I asked if you know who I am." "I remember. They said you were the most handsome. Couldn't find another like you in the entire university town." Gerald lowered his gaze to stare at her, enunciating each word deliberately. "What's my name?" Odelia closed her eyes and let out a soft laugh. "Gerald." Her body began to slide downward as she finished speaking. Gerald snapped back to reality and immediately scooped the person up by the waist. He didn't feel comfortable leaving a drunk girl in someone else's care, so he simply booked a room at the hotel across the street. He wiped the girl's face and tucked her into bed. The air conditioner was set at a comfortable temperature, neither too cold nor too hot. After handling everything, he prepared to go next door to book another room. This way, he could conveniently return with her early the next morning. But just as he was about to leave, the girl suddenly opened her eyes, clung to him like an octopus. "This is a good dream. I like it." Gerald blushed and pushed her away. Who would have thought she'd pucker her lips and kiss him directly? The aloof academic genius's brain froze on the spot. This was the girl he had liked for a long time. Her sweet, soft body carried the scent of alcohol. She clung to him as if boneless. He had also been drinking, nor was he a saint, and so everything happened as if it were the most natural thing in the world. What little reason remained made him pull out a box of condoms from the drawer that night. He didn't sleep until dawn, pondering how to face the girl in the morning. But the next day, the first thing he saw upon opening his eyes was a slipper. I'll take responsibility. Can we avoid silencing her? He genuinely wants to take responsibility. Dating, getting married, having children. He's even thought about where to buy a house in the future. But the girl has just one request. Pretend we don't know each other from now on. Gerald remained heartbroken and silent for a long time. It seems she really didn't like him. For a whole month after that, he lived in a daze, until that day, when the girl blushed shyly, and asked if he had brought a condom. Extra chapter, Odelia's perspective. Odelia had heard about the academic genius at the neighboring University A since her first day of enrollment. He was said to be the most handsome among all the science valedictorians who had ever entered University A. She didn't believe the hype and couldn't resist going to see for herself. The result was simply jaw-dropping. She had never seen such a handsome man. His figure was tall and slender, with skin so fair it seemed to glow. His facial features were smooth, with delicate and three-dimensional contours. A pair of phoenix eyes exuded a coldness and detachment uncommon for someone her age. The impression she gave was like the wind weaving through a cedar forest in winter. She found it hard to describe this feeling of an eternity in a single glance. Was it love at first sight? A senior I knew joked. Actually, you could give it a try. Odelia hesitated. I heard he's hard to pursue. No one has ever succeeded. You're Professor Alice's daughter. It's easier for you to find opportunities to get close to him. That wouldn't be right. It's inappropriate. That day Odelia was just at University A's cafeteria having a meal. She witnessed Gerald reject love letters from 3 girls. She simply stopped overthinking it, screw chasing him. She would never chase after someone in her life. Then she turned around proudly and walked away. Later Henry launched a passionate pursuit of her. She quickly fell for him and got her first boyfriend. But she soon realized this boyfriend was a complete idiot. Not only did he lie to her and accept gifts from other girls, he also kept hinting about going to a hotel with her. She irritably refused and soon after proposed a breakup. Later, drunk at a KTV, she accidentally barged into University A's private room. In the dim light, a boy's profile was strikingly handsome. Without a second thought, she threw herself at him. Wake up. Do you know who I am? You're so handsome, I remember. They said you're the most handsome. Can't find a second one like you in the entire university town. What's my name? Gerald. She really knew. Other than Gerald, who else could look so arrogant? But she must be dreaming. Otherwise, Gerald the unattainable flower wouldn't be holding her like that. Later, she kissed Gerald on the lips. After all, she couldn't kiss him in real life. Might as well kiss him more in her dreams. The sweet dream lasted for a long time. It was a mix of pain and pleasure. Until she opened her eyes in the morning light. The end.